President Trump has announced a major trade deal with Vietnam, slapping a 20% tariff on all their exports while claiming U.S. goods heading to Vietnam will face zero tariffs under this agreement. There's also a second piece, a steep 40% tariff targeting products or components originally from China that are just passing through Vietnam on their way to the U.S. It all unfolded quickly. In just one morning, the world was hit with a brand new reality. Trump dropped the news of a sweeping trade agreement with Vietnam. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people, he said. They like me, I like them, but they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them a 46% tariff. On the surface, it sounded like a win. But hidden in the fine print was a surprise that shook global markets. 20% tariffs on all Vietnamese imports to the U.S. According to the president, we've struck a trade deal with Vietnam, and that includes a 20% import tariff on their goods coming into the U.S. For many Americans, this felt like déjà vu, another trade war, another tariff, another country caught in the crossfire, but this time, the stakes are different. The numbers are massive, and the fallout is landing right here at home. At grocery stores, in electronics sections, and on factory floors already under pressure. We know YouTube doesn't always push videos like this, but we believe the truth needs to be heard. If you agree, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us keep going and reach more people. We appreciate your support. So, what does this 20% tariff really mean? Who comes out ahead? Who takes the hit? And why is this deal not just about economics but about geopolitics, with billions of dollars in the balance? Trump made the announcement on July 2, 2025, in an early morning social media post. Great deal with Vietnam, it read. We've reached a historic agreement, tariff-free access for U.S. exports, and a 20% import tariff on Vietnamese goods. It may have sounded like a diplomatic win, but it immediately caused chaos in supply chain networks that had already shifted away from China and heavily into Vietnam. Retailers who rely on Vietnamese products, everything from sneakers to smartphones, were blindsided. And economists warned this could trigger another wave of inflation as import costs go up. Here's what's in the details. Any Vietnamese goods coming into the U.S., shoes, clothes, electronics, steel parts, food items, will now be hit with a flat 20% tax at the port. And it gets tougher. If those goods originally came from a different country, like China, and were just routed through Vietnam to sidestep existing tariffs, they'll now get slammed with an even higher 40% tariff. At first glance, the goal seems clear. Punish trade loopholes, bring manufacturing back home, and open Vietnam's markets to more American goods. But in practice, trade policy is never that simple. While American exporters are thrilled about easier access to Vietnamese buyers, American importers are scrambling to deal with the fallout. Vietnam isn't some small player in this game. It's actually the fastest-growing U.S. trade partner in Southeast Asia. Over 30% of Vietnam's GDP is tied to exports heading to the U.S., and American consumers are deeply dependent on Vietnamese imports. In 2024 alone, Vietnamese exports to the U.S. topped $140 billion. That includes everyday products, clothes, furniture, electronics, and all kinds of industrial parts. Now, with a 20% tariff tacked on across the board, just about every Vietnamese product is going to get more expensive. Think about your daily life. That laptop assembled in Hanoi? Expect to pay more. The mid-priced sofa shipped from Da Nang? Retailers are already recalculating their delivery costs. Even the cheap sneakers and backpacks your kids take to school will come with a new built-in tax. And that's just one layer. Big multinational tech companies like Apple and Samsung, who've moved a lot of their manufacturing to Vietnam, are now facing surprise costs. A lot of their operations were designed specifically to avoid tariffs. Now, they're staring at new policies they can't get around. Do they move their production again? Do they eat the cost? Or do they pass it on to customers? Bloomberg's early analysis suggests prices for electronics could jump anywhere from 8 to 12% by the end of the year. Meanwhile, the supply chain can't adjust overnight. Retailers who placed big orders from Vietnam last month are now looking at millions of dollars in new tariffs when those shipments arrive. And there's no time to adjust retail prices before the goods hit the shelves. But let's zoom out. Why Vietnam? According to sources inside the Trump administration, it's all about fairness. Vietnam, they say, has become a backdoor for Chinese goods to sneak into the U.S. without paying full tariffs. By targeting Vietnam, the White House says it's closing that loophole and enforcing trade rules more strictly. In return, Vietnam has agreed to drop all import tariffs on American products. That opens their market to U.S. wheat, beef, dairy, tech, and pharmaceuticals. On paper, it sounds like a balanced exchange, but in practice, it's a one-sided deal. Vietnam opens up to American goods, American exporters benefit, but everyday US consumers? They'll probably feel the hit from rising prices on Vietnamese imports. That's over $180 billion in goods annually. Sure, American farmers may get better access to Vietnamese grocery stores, but the average American family? They might end up spending an extra $20 on a blender, or $100 more on a new mattress. And for low-income families, those added costs stack up fast. Ports like Long Beach and Savannah are already seeing signs of trouble. Import brokers report a surge in last-minute shipment cancellations. Retailers are scrambling. Some are rerouting through Malaysia or Indonesia. But even those backup plans aren't foolproof. This administration has shown it can move fast and hit hard. The real message being sent isn't just about tariffs, it's about warning the world. Trade with the US comes with conditions. Critics argue that sudden policy shifts like this erode trust. Businesses that rely on stable, long-term supply chains now face a new kind of risk. Nobody can predict what the tariff landscape will look like 3 months from now. That makes planning and investing much harder. There's even a term for it, tariff volatility premium. It's the hidden cost added when businesses have to prepare for unpredictable government policy. Right now, that premium is rising. On the other side of the deal, Vietnam's government has called the agreement fair and mutually beneficial. In a statement released that morning, they emphasized their commitment to cooperating on trade enforcement and ending unfair practices. But within Vietnam's business world, there's real concern. Thousands of factories depend on US buyers, and a 20% tariff instantly makes their products less competitive. For many Vietnamese manufacturers, this deal could mean layoffs, reduced output, or a pivot toward other markets, especially within the regional comprehensive economic partnership, where China and other Asian economies lead. Some Vietnamese exporters are already looking to Europe to make up for lost American demand, and it's not just Vietnam keeping a close eye on this. Countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines are watching too. They know what happens when Washington picks a trade target. The consequences go far beyond customs checks. It reshapes alliances, disrupts supply chains, and redirects global investment. For US farmers, the picture is a bit more mixed. Some exporters, especially in dairy, grains, and meat, may see new opportunities as Vietnam lowers its import barriers. But benefits like these take time to materialize. Building export infrastructure isn't quick, and global competition from places like Australia, New Zealand, and Brazil means the US doesn't automatically win. But one thing's clear, this administration isn't afraid to shake things up. Supporters call that bold leadership. Critics call it reckless. To the global trade community, it's just plain risky. And risk has a way of pushing business elsewhere. For now, the 20% tariff on Vietnamese imports is in effect. The 40% penalty on transshipped goods is looming, and the world is watching to see whether this stabilizes the trade system or cracks it wide open. We know platforms like YouTube aren't always friendly to videos like this, but we believe people deserve to know what's going on. If you agree, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps more than you know. What's your take? Is this a smart trade reset or a costly mistake? Let us know in the comments, and stick with us as this story continues to unfold. Because even though it might sound like just another policy move, trade deals like this shape the economy you live in every single day.